With much of the focus on COVID-19 vaccines and treatments, there is a growing concern of a possible slowdown in the FDA's drug review process for other issues, other illnesses. Joining us right now is Dr. Scott Gottlieb. He is former FDA commissioner and CNBC contributor. He also serves on the boards of Illumina and Pfizer. And Dr. Gottlieb, thank you for being here. I have to say this has been a big concern for me. I think anybody who has a loved one who's dealing with any sort of other illness or disease is now looking at this and saying, fantastic, we want to see coronavirus, we want to see COVID-19 solutions. But what about the other solutions that have all been put on hold to this point? What are you hearing on this? What do you think?
Well, there's been a number of important approvals by the FDA in the last month or so. You've seen some really important cancer drug approvals. So the agency has been keeping up. But what's happened probably, and what I see on the other side of the fence, is that a lot of drug companies put clinical trials on hold. Either they didn't go forward with trials that they were going to initiate, or trials that were in the field that they were currently conducting, they suspended enrollment, so they didn't continue to enroll patients. So trials that were underway, they tried to continue to complete. And oncology trials they've tried to preserve, so have the academic centers. But because of the shutdown, effectively, of the healthcare system, it became very hard to conduct clinical trials at academic medical centers. And so a lot of the clinical trials were put on hold. That's going to create delays now going forward. And what the agency put out yesterday was a notice that because of the COVID workload that they have, so the increased workload they have related to COVID, and I presume, they didn't explicitly say this, but I presume because of anticipating that there'll be a surge in work as companies now try to go forward with clinical trials that were put on hold, they might miss some of their deadlines, what we call these PDUFA deadlines, deadlines that they statutorily commit to in terms of the time frame that they'll take to review applications. So I would expect that there's going to probably be some delays going forward in clinical trials as a sort of a surge in activity as clinical trials get underway again.
Scott, it's not just the drug companies that have shut these things down. If you look at research centers or academic centers where they've done very early studies, all those places have been shut down entirely except for essential work. And it's hard to get a lot of this early research labeled as essential work. How long are the delays? What are the ripple effects? Are we talking about years of compounded delays that we could be facing?
There shouldn't be a compounding effect. There's clearly been some shutdowns, and there's going to be delays as a result. Clinical trials that would have been in the field in the summer didn't go forward. I think a lot of drug companies are going to rethink how they do clinical trials. I think they're going to look to move more clinical trials into the community, do more data collection outside of medical centers, maybe at home, use home monitoring to collect information. I think make wider use of real-world evidence. So I think it's going to accelerate a transition that's already been underway in clinical trials to try to decentralize the conduct of clinical trials. But this should pick up. I mean, it shouldn't be a compounding effect where a 1-month delay leads to a 3-month delay. They should be able to get back mostly where they left off with this, with some built-in delays as they restart activity. But a lot of trials were put on hold, and now that you're going to see sort of that workload work its way through, and you might see a burst of activity start to hit the regulatory authorities, I think that's going to put pressure on the FDA. I suspect that was in part behind their announcement yesterday. It's not just the COVID workload that's going to stress the agency. It's going to be this burst in activity. And we saw the same thing after the shutdown of the government. That was 1 month where there was some delayed action. And all of a sudden, when the government opened up, we had a burst of activity. We were able to keep up with it, but that was just 1 month or a month and a half.
Does the FDA need additional resources? Just looking at the board, all of the different companies that are trying to come up, just even with COVID-19, vaccines or solutions? Well,
this is going to put pressure on the vaccine center, on the biologics center for sure. I mean, it's hard for the FDA to onboard resources quickly. The hiring process is very slow there. There's actually a lot of unfilled positions, so the agency is understaffed relative to what its own headcount should be. But the biologics center that oversees vaccine is a more lean operation. They're going to get a lot of work now because of all the activity. So they're going to get pretty stressed. The drug center has more capacity, has more people, has more reserve capacity. They're not getting as much activity, I suspect, as the biologics center and the vaccine group in particular.